Welcome to Liberty Alert with Gregory Seltz, sponsored by our friends at the Lutheran Center for Religious Liberty here in Washington, D.C., a program that cuts through the chaos and confusion in the culture today by talking two-kingdom citizenship, bold biblical principles for a robust public Christian life. And now your host, Dr. Gregory Seltz.
Good day, Washington, D.C. I'm Gregory Seltz. Welcome to our program, The Liberty Alert, where every week we try to cut through the noise and take on the issues, especially the public issues that matter to people of faith. And that's what I want to talk about today. People ask me all the time, are there Christians in D.C.? It's kind of the same kind of question as, are there Christians in Hollywood, that type of thing. Well, they're all over the place, but we've, to some degree, been browbeaten into thinking that our voice doesn't matter. And I think that's the point. We fight for religious liberty. Why? So we can have a voice in solving the problems that are in our culture today. And very often, politics is not going to solve these problems. That's why I want to bring on a guy named Gary Hall from Hollywood Impact Studios, good friend. He's doing an organization now in retirement called Hollywood Impact Studio that's really making a difference in the lives of people who have great needs. We need more of that. So today we're going to be talking about faith in Hollywood. Well, actually, not really that. Actually, it's going to be talking about freedom, free people motivated by their faith, making a difference. And that's why I think it's my privilege and honor to have on the program Gary Hall, the founder of Hollywood Impact Studios. Just to give you a little bit of an invitation into who this guy is, he's been a writer and producer in television, written and produced for 21 Jump Street, The A-Team, and a variety of shows. And when I met him, he was senior vice president, heading up post-production for 20th Century Fox, involved with my favorite show back in the day, 24, Bones, Homeland, The Simpsons. And in retirement, he and his wife co-founded Hollywood Impact Studios because they still wanted to make a difference through the medium of entertainment and also his work as an LA sheriff. Welcome, Gary. It's, again, fun to talk to you on the program.
Thank you, Greg. I really appreciate this opportunity. Got to clarify one thing because it's rivalry. It's Los Angeles Police Department.
Yeah, okay.
That was like off UCLA, USC.
Okay. I won't forget. Well, listen, again, we're a religious liberty organization in Washington, D.C. And so we talk about making sure that the public square is protected for ministries like what you're doing. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about today, because really we do this work in DC because we believe that free people motivated by their faith, speaking the truth in love, serving their neighbor, we believe that's where the solutions really are going to come. That it's not going to come from Washington. It's not going to come from public policy. They're just like the backstop. They try to keep the rules fair. The rest of us got to mix it up and get involved. And that's why I love your vision of Hollywood Impact Studio. Do you want to talk about your vision, first of all, and a little bit about who you are? Because then I want to tell people about where I think this is going in a great direction. And I think it's something that will challenge all of us to service.
Sure. I'm going to actually start back up a little bit in my career at 20th Century Fox Television. Okay. I didn't hide my faith. I didn't hide that I was a Christian. Many people on different shows knew that. They would I always had an open door policy. People would come in. There's a lot more Christians than people might think in Hollywood, and we really need even more. Right. We need more light in Hollywood. Right. So people would come in and they go, hey, I've got this problem with just family or whatnot. Hey, could we pray or whatnot? So I really tried to share my faith even within that environment.
Can I stop you right there, too?
Sure.
Yeah, because that's when I met you. And we were trying to bring this, you were actually trying to bring This Is the Life, the Lutheran program, back to TV, and I was going to be the announcer. And I remember being in a meeting where everyone kind of was quiet because everyone was a little bit nervous. And then the meeting exploded because everyone realized they were Christians. And I thought, wow, people don't realize how many people there are in whether it's New York, Washington, D.C., there's a lot of Christians. And we've just got to find a way to make sure that our voice is in the public square. And there's going to obviously be challenges to that. But that's what I loved about you, because I saw that in action, especially in that meeting. Go ahead.
Thank you. So now going kind of forward, Fox wanted the executives to go out there and be to help the community.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did a little bit of guest speaking and kind of really enjoyed it. The initial plan for Hollywood Impact Studios was actually to help inner city kids. But in 2008, our church did a thing called Returning Hearts at Pitches Detention Center, which is part of the Los Angeles County jail system.
Mm-hmm.
And Cindy and I went, and we realized very shortly it was Returning Hearts. For those that don't know, it's a time where the parents or the incarcerated parent can have some time with their child. It's through prison fellowship. And they find that if they can keep that bond between the father and the child intact on some level, they can really reduce the odds that that child will follow in the father's footsteps. So we did that for the day, but we just saw that there was such a need with these guys. And I met the lead deputy and the lead chaplain and said, hey, how about could we come in here and teach, as odd as it sounds, television inside the jail as a ministry, though, not as just vocation.
Right.
And they said, how much would it cost? I said, we'll just do it for free. I'll figure out volunteers and we'll cover any costs we have to. So they really like that idea. So we started in June 3rd, 2009, teaching our first class in there. And I tell people, because they said, are you trying to get everybody that's in the LA County Jail in Hollywood? And the answer is no. It is a ministry, but there's a lot of crossover between what we do in Hollywood and what we do like truck driving, catering, set design. Those all have other applications. But more than that, these guys really needed to know who Christ was.
Sure.
A lot of all of our instructors are from Hollywood. They're all Christian Hollywood professionals, and it gives them an outlet to share their faith and disciple to these guys. So we've been doing it now 12 years.
Well, and let me jump in too. When we were recording the This Is the Life intros and exits at the very end, I remember when we broke for it. We finally did it to 10:30 at night, and then so some of the guys had to get back to the jail because a lot of the guys that were manning the all kinds of whether it was cameras and all kinds of things, they were still in that process. And I remember a couple of the guys talking to me once, and they were saying like, "Man, we love what you're saying." So you were touching their hearts, not just giving them skill sets for recidivism issues and things like that. And I was so enamored with that. I said, man, what a great thing. Well, Hollywood Impact now is taking that to another level, correct?
Correct. By the way, I do want to reminisce a second on that day. That was a very long day. You were quite a trooper on it. And I appreciate it. And it was also nice for our guys to actually meet a real pastor, a real man, a regular guy that they could relate to, they could talk to. So it was a fun day. I do apologize if there were any off-color jokes.
No, I had a blast.
It was a good day.
I had a blast. Okay, well,
So we continued. Okay, go on. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say in 2011, we saw a need. Our guys were getting out of jail, and the recidivism was going up. So we started in 2011 a thing called the Alumni, which meets at our church, where we could help the guys start getting set up, where they would live when they got out, help them to try and get plugged into a good church and carry that. Then in 2015, we started Miracle Mountain, which is where we're at now. It's a 75-acre parcel up above Castaic. In Southern California, and it's a vocational training center for these guys to learn trades. But more than that, again, we have the gospel running through everything that we do, because we feel and we see it firsthand when a man or woman, in our case, we primarily deal with men, accept Christ and start following him, all of the other issues begin to correct themselves. There's redemption. There's reconciliation with their families. They quite honestly, they're not using alcohol and drugs anymore either. So that is a key part to our ministry and why it works.
Well, and the other thing too, so and I want to talk about why I think at the end, why I think this is the thing that we need more of, whether it's getting involved in foster care, whether it's getting out in these issues as a church and as a people, but you're also trying to produce good programming too, right?
Right.
And I think that's,
Yep.
So talk a little bit about, you talked about Christians in Hollywood. Well, talk about, there's a growing movement too, to produce better programming. And how is that going? How does Hollywood think about things like what you're doing?
Well,
or does it matter?
Well, you know what? It's funny. It's kind of all over the map. I would say mainstream Hollywood doesn't particularly care about sharing the gospel, with the exception that if it does well, for instance, the Bible series that was produced on the History Channel beat everything out there, everything on network television. And they saw, wow, there really is a need out there. Passion of the Christ, as you know, did really well at the box office.
And
so
Gibson's producing another one, but also just family-friendly programming, moral, virtuous programming.
I would say that's probably the biggest struggle, because so much of Hollywood, they want to, quote unquote, push the envelope, as they say. And some of the shows, quite honestly, that I worked on, I was not real happy about. But that wasn't my job to greenlight. It was to get them produced and get them on television. But I think that's really kind of our desire at Hollywood Impact at some point, is to begin to produce family-friendly content, not necessarily Christian, but with a biblical worldview. And I will give you an example. We're right now trying to pitch a show to, and we're hoping Magnolia Network. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but to pitch a show on what we're doing called Miracle Mountain, up there at Miracle Mountain, and a show to be counter to Locked Up Abroad, Scared Straight. Nothing wrong with any of those shows, but they look at inmates in a different light than I want to. I think I want to show the hope that can be offered, and that these guys are just like anybody else. So we're trying to put something together like that. And I was asked by one of the developers, will it be a Christian series? And I said, well, not exactly, but it will be. Again, when these guys find Christ and accept them, they talk about him as if he were right there standing next to them.
Right.
So it's real to them. They've come so far, and they've seen how Christ has helped them and brought them out of that past life, that they talk about it just in normal conversation. So,
and
that's kind of programming.
Yeah, and that's the second thing, because when you talk about your work in law enforcement and how it morphed into this service through your work in entertainment and that kind of thing, it reminded me of the Cain redemption in Angola. In fact, when you go to the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C., they actually, in the Museum of the Bible, they have a cell from Angola that's built there. And it was the same thing. He said, I don't want to just educate criminals. I want to bring something in that can change their life. So he brought a seminary into the prison, and you could actually earn the right to go to seminary. So guys started reading the Bible. Hey, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do something. Well, these guys then changed the whole prison and the whole prison system in Louisiana, and it's now working in Texas. Ew. And again, I went down to Angola. It's a maximum security prison, and everything that you're talking about.
Been there twice.
Yeah, and everything you're talking about is a real thing there. And it went from being the bloodiest prison in America to a place where it's like, it kind of is like Mayberry RFD behind the bars. I mean, when you think about it. And all I kept thinking of is your work, and the kind of work that you're doing. I guess I struggle a little bit. Why is this so offensive to the powers that be? It's empowering people. It's giving people a whole different view of life. We seem to always run into folks who want to undermine this kind of stuff too. And I still can't figure that out, except for the Bible does talk about there's evil in the world, that kind of thing. But, this is truly empowering people. This is truly giving people a different sense of their life, even behind bars. So again, talk a little bit about that. This is another way. I say it's a better way than just a government program or a government policy, because it's coming from free people really making huge sacrifices for the sake of others. Isn't that the better way?
I will tell you, for instance, in the sheriff's department, and even though I just made the thing about LAPD, the sheriff's department has been very generous to us and very supportive of us.
Okay.
And I think that doesn't mean that the sheriff's department is a Christian organization.
No,
not at all. But they recognize that it works. And even those officials that are not Christians still look and they see these Christians coming in volunteering, and they see there was a riot at LA County Jail in 2011 in the facility that we work in. There are 18 dorms. 3 of the dorms refused to be part of the riot. All 3 of those dorms were Christian dorms. One of them was Hollywood Impact. So they got to see firsthand that these men's lives are changed.
right.
And so I think that's why they allow us to do what we do. They do ask that we don't exclude anybody, and we wouldn't anyway. We don't want to start a Christian club. We want to be a ministry. So we've had in our classes Buddhists. We've had 2 Satanists in our class. I can say one of them at the end of the semester asked. He said, "You said you'd give me a Bible if I wanted one. I want one." So we gave him one.
Well, for me, the struggle I have with my work on the Hill is when I see people who see what you're doing and then still want to thwart it. That's what happened in the foster care stuff in Philadelphia, right, where they just willy-nilly, because the Catholic social services believes in marriage, they just wanted to wipe out their 100-year ministry, and it didn't matter what happened to those kids in the foster system. And I struggle a little bit with what I call the empowerment issue versus the dependence issue. And you'd be surprised at how many politicians don't want empowerment. They want dependence. Mm-hmm. And here you come in probably the most dependence-based thing, prison, and you start empowering people. It does my heart good to see that there are people saying, thank goodness you're here. Welcome to the challenge. So as you're working, tell me a little bit about so you're starting to produce some programming specific that you're trying to put on television now with Miracle Mountain. Is that where it's kind of at now?
No, right now I would say we're in the development stage.
Okay.
We have 3 different shows that we're working on. Again, Miracle Mountain, and I've gotten a little more sidetracked than I'd like to, but this camp that we're on was closed in 2011. It's in really rough shape.
Right.
So I do spend a little bit more time than I want trying to raise funds, trying to find volunteers to get the camp fixed so people can actually live there. So I'm not as far ahead as I would like to be on producing content. Right now, it is more in development. Okay. I'm working with a couple of different people on different shows. I mentioned the one that's Miracle Mountain. At some point, quite honestly, Greg, I would love to do a scripted show based on This Is the Life. And I have 3 or 4 scripts that are there, but again, it's finding time and money, and that's a little ways down the road still. Hopefully not too far, though.
Well, and so, again, for some of the people that are listening in, and like I said, these things are organic. They happen when they happen. In fact, the time when I met you, it was amazing to me that we had this resource called This Is the Life. And I still don't think our church really, truly appreciates the value of that. And and I remember someone one of my guys saying, hey, do you want to go do this? And that was my vacation time, and I was supposed to be working on my PhD thesis. And all I said is, are you kidding me? I can't wait to get out there and try to do this, because we've got to address the issues in our culture. And one of the ways to do it is through entertainment, obviously.
It is.
It's on every. And so I love what you're doing. I hope and pray that comes to fruition, because, I'm looking at what's going on. You talked about the Passion of the Christ. You talked about PureFlix. You talked about all these different things. The Chosen now, that's now using crowdfunding, I think, to resource itself. Yeah, all of that is fair game. And then producing quality programming.
Right.
And I think that was the key. And that's what I loved about what you're doing. So if people do want to get to know more about what you're about, how can they go to a website? How can they participate, pray for you, these kind of things?
Our website is pretty simple. It's Hollywood Impact Studios. at gmail.com.
Okay.
I do want to just say one thing on Hollywood Impact Studios, which maybe people will figure out or not. When we were coming up with the name, I had written out Hollywood on top and then Impact under it. And then I went entertainment? No. Productions? How about studios?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I wrote that out, I went, it's HIS. And I only find it funny because I'm one that can, if somebody donates a light or something, I want to keep it myself. But now with our name being his, I got to write HIS, and it reminds me whose mountain it is, whose light that is, whose whatever that people donate or give us. So at any rate, yes, it's Hollywood Impact Studios at gmail.com is our website, is our email, and HollywoodImpactStudios.com is our website.
Well, I invite people to go to that as well. And, I'm working with some guys that are writing novels and things like that, and I always think about bringing these things to movie. In fact, a friend of mine, he was just down at NRB. In fact, we'll be at NRB next year, so I hope I get to see you. But
Great.
He's right. He wrote a book, and it's called Jesus, Lord of the Legends. And I thought that, because with all this DC comic stuff that's out there and how it's kind of creating a whole different view of this, here comes this. And I even think things like Harry Potter, they're still written. There's a backdrop to that has kind of Christian salvation narrative behind it. And I think Hollywood's trying to move away from that. And I think we can reclaim that with some good writing and some good movies and some good television shows and the like. It was a privilege to get to know you and to see how you're trying to accomplish that. And I wanted to bring you back. I wanted to bring what you're doing to our audience, because I do believe sometimes we think that solving the politics of this will solve the issue. And I keep saying to people, no. If we solve the political stuff, or at least keep it in its proper place, then we have to be doing stuff like what Gary Hall is doing and what they're doing with Hollywood Impact. And I think that's why this is so great. In fact, I always say it this way. Politics, it's like we wrote a bunch of mom and pop papers to try to make it simple. And one of them is the referee, no one wants to play when the referees play the game. So, if you watch basketball, we're in March Madness. If you watch basketball and the refs are playing, literally every play is determined by the refs. You turn the TV off. You don't want to play in that game. Well, so that's the politics. Right. So you just want the refs to do their job. But now I want to develop a team that really plays the game, for all it's worth. And that's the kind of stuff I think you're doing.
I hope so. That is our goal, is to produce content that's family friendly, that's got biblical values, and good, quite honestly, good entertainment as well.
Well, I was just watching, I'll close on this, because I was just watching a documentary on I Love Lucy. And it was about, it wasn't something about her. It was just taking clips from her and Desi. And I thought it was really well done. But when you think about what launched Desi Lou, I mean, it was just, they wanted to be a family.
Right.
It was rooted in something as basic as mother, father, child. He wanted to be that. She wanted to be that. And they produced this thing. Now it got out of, Desi Lou got so big, it got bigger than they probably could handle. But when I think about that, there are certain fundamental things in life that if you value those things, life changes. And the canvas is not completely blank. With life, God has given us certain wisdom and certain directions that make it beautiful, right?
Yeah, exactly. I believe that type of entertainment, even from a business standpoint, makes sense.
Well, Gary, it's been a privilege to have you on the program today, and I look forward to talking more about this stuff in the future, especially maybe down the line. I would love to see something come to fruition, and maybe we can do something together again, because it was fun the day we spent. All right. Well, have a great day.
Thank you, Greg. You too.
Thanks for tuning in today. To get to know our LCRL DC work better, check out our website at lcrlfreedom.org. Contained there are resources to empower your public square dynamic discipleship. Or check out our weekly Word from the Center opinion piece every Friday at facebook.com/LCRL Freedom. Till next time, God bless you always. I'm Gregory Seltz. Have a great week.
You've been listening to Liberty Alert with Dr. Gregory Seltz, Executive Director of the Lutheran Center for Religious Liberty in Washington, D.C. This program has been brought to you by the Lutheran Center for Religious Liberty.